With 20 years navigating high-stakes launches, Michael Dodsworth founded Fanfare to solve these nightmares, ensuring fairness for fans while giving brands tools to turn hype into lasting loyalty. He builds solutions from the trenches, and I'm here with him in the studio today. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. It's great to be here. Wow,
Great.
20
Well,
years.
does that sound like a lot when you hear that?
Yeah, I
Like,
can
wait a
feel it.
minute.
I can feel those 20 years for sure.
That's awesome. It's like, oh man, there's got to be a way to like break that up to make it a little less intimidating, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Some quick rapid fire icebreakers here, Michael. Get us off to the races. If you were to think of a historical figure, so this is someone not currently alive today, but from any point in history, who can you think would be probably the worst TikTok influencer if they were around right now?
I mean, someone who's a tryhard, right? Someone
Okay.
who's just trying to stir the pot and isn't actually contributing anything.
Sure.
I feel like those are political figures,
Oh yeah.
you
No
know.
doubt. No doubt.
Apart from the obvious ones, I mean, I feel like Germany for sure has a bunch of
Oh
people in
yeah.
that list. Like, I would put people in that category. Maybe naming names is not
Sure.
the right thing to do here, but there's definitely some people who
Yeah.
misuse media to their own ends. So
Yeah.
I feel like those kind of people absolutely TikTok
That's
is
got to
not
be
their thing.
about as bad as it gets. Sure. No need to give them a much larger platform than they had maybe
Sure.
100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me, Michael, for you personally, what do you think the most embarrassing thing you've ever done to avoid small talk has been? So like you're just not feeling it. Somebody corners you, and you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I think just having someone call you, like prep them ahead of time.
Okay,
Like, I'm going to need to leave. You need to call me at this particular time
there you
and I'll go
go.
and do a thing. I feel like I've definitely done I make a mistake or like
Sure.
I'm in something I don't want to, and I'll
Yeah.
just kind of check my phone, give it like a quizzical look, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I'll, suddenly march off so it looks like it's an
That's
emergency.
great.
Like, those kind of things I do
Oh,
more often than I
that
should.
That's great. I remember when I was young, I was at my friend's house hanging out with him, and his mom had been on the phone with somebody for like an hour or something. She's like, "Hey, go over and ring the doorbell." And so he went ring the doorbell. She's like, "Oh, someone's at the door. Gotta go." Like,
Exactly.
sneaky. Very good.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Last one. You have to swap lives with a celebrity for a week, but it has to be someone whom you mildly dislike. Who would you pick?
I
Not a
mildly
best case scenario
dislike.
situation here.
I mean, I feel like I'd love to get the inside scoop on some influencers' lifestyle. Just, I know that there's a ton of heavy lifting
Yeah,
happening there. So maybe it's like a Mr. Beast. Like, I would love to know what his
okay,
process is and
for
go
sure.
through that, like experience what that's like. I think that would be interesting. I feel like
Yeah,
going through life, having people have that look on their face, like they kind of recognize you, but they're not sure where from.
sure.
So, like, maybe you've been in a couple of TV shows, not anything
Yeah,
that's been significant, but
uh
people,
huh.
they give you a little double take.
Yeah,
I feel
not
like
quite
that would
like
be
a
interesting.
Ryan Reynolds obvious, but like
Right.
sort of in the background, like, oh yes, I feel like I've seen him somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, because they must get that all day,
no
right? Just
doubt.
people like maybe just approach them like, where
Yeah,
do I know you from? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. I get that. Awesome. All right. So, Michael, we got a lot we can cover here. I found your background just really interesting. So, I'm going to kind of weave in and out of some of the stuff that I have been reading about you as going into this. But I wanted to start. So, as we noted at top of the studio here, that 20 years you've been in this realm, right? And this is quoting from something I read previously that you have witnessed, quote, midnight meltdowns, crashed servers, and bot-infested queues firsthand. So that sounds like quite a lot. I'm curious, was there a final straw moment that you had, having experienced all the like bad moments in this industry? Where like, okay, there's got to be something better. Is that immediately what led you to found Fanfare? What was the process like that?
I mean, I think it was death by a thousand cuts.
Okay.
I think it's just every time something goes on sale that's scarce, highly hyped, whether it's a live event, whether it's like the Switch 2 going on sale, whether it's anything like luxury
Sure.
collectibles, all of those things, then everyone just expects the process to be terrible. And the
Okay.
previous company I was at was this ticketing company called Rival. And I mean, we were a little on the nose with the name there. We were going after the likes of
Sure.
Ticketmaster and all of those incumbents. And there was a feeling everyone who came through our doors had some horror story, something that they went through in the past, whether it was like US Open tickets that turned out to be fraudulent after they booked their
Wow.
flights, whether it was like a Taylor Swift on sale where it just spectacularly melted down and failed, whether it was things that were clawed back after the fact. Like everyone had those painful moments. And then spending some time on the other side of it, realizing like, know what real effort has gone into solving these problems.
Yeah.
Like the process is basically the same it was decades ago. Right?
Wow.
You're staring at a spinner. You have your multiple tabs open, right? You're told there's 200,000 people ahead of you in line, whatever that
Yeah.
means. Like, is that good? Do I have a chance? Like, what is this? And just, having spent some time thinking about how we could improve that process, after leaving Rival, after leaving Ticketmaster, actually, we were acquired by Ticketmaster at the start of the pandemic,
Okay.
feeling like I see this problem in retail, sneaker drops, product launches, like any kind of scenario where you have this anticipation around a particular product is this failed consumer experience. So that
Yeah.
was me wanting to solve those problems. There's definitely been moments where, like the table flip moments, I think Taylor Swift Iris
Mm-hmm.
pre-sale falling over was one of
Sure.
those, and then
Mm-hmm.
seeing the kind of apologies after the fact. Like
Yeah.
you knew this was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knew this was going to happen. There was no, trying to solve for that problem before calamity happened. So that was definitely a table flip for me.
Yeah. Okay. You can unpack a little bit for those who aren't familiar with Fanfare and what you're doing there. Maybe give us a highlight on what you guys are releasing, what you're building with that, and then tell me. You mentioned here in the bio about how your one of your core tenets with Fanfare is to deliver fairness for fans and powerful tools for brands. So I think we understand like the tool part. So what does that fairness element mean? How does that? What does that in real time look like for fans that are on the kind of receiving end of this experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simplest way of describing Fanfare is product drops as a service. So all of those high stakes launches, on sales, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, everything through the holidays, anything where you have this mismatch in supply and demand,
Okay.
there's always a terrible consumer process. There's always pain on the vendor side. We sit in front of whatever product tool you have, ecom stack, and we provide that service end to end where you can send announcements out, choreograph the whole experience through us. We'll manage the spin up of the infrastructure, we'll remove bots and bad actors, and we'll make sure that you have a good experience in those moments. And the idea of fairness in this, again, that's one of those thousands cuts. Like it's one of those pain points that everyone feels, which is you go into a process and you feel like you are maybe a very loyal fan of the brand or very loyal fan of the artist. And then you see all of the inventory just vanish and
Mm,
suddenly appear on a secondary market somewhere. Like there's
mm,
the feeling
okay.
that other people are coming in, they're subverting whatever system you've put in place to make sure real people get these things. And it's unfair. It feels inherently unfair. And I feel like in ticketing, that's definitely exacerbated by all of the
Yeah.
fees, ticket brokers that are given tickets ahead of time. Like there's all kinds of things that make that a worse experience. But we've all felt it with, going to buy a Switch 2 and then it's like 5x the
Hmm.
price, or going to buy whatever collectibles you buy and it's 5x the price. Like that doesn't feel fair. Like I've
Hmm.
waited around in line and people are working around the system in some way. So we try and identify you as a real fan of the brand. Maybe you've been unsuccessful a bunch of times in your sneaker drops. You've tried to get the undefeated Jordan 4s and you failed 5 times. will remember that and will move you forward in line, or will allow the
Interesting.
brand to
Okay.
create an experience just for you, right? Maybe like an L club that you create just for your loyal fans who are just unlucky.
Okay. You said experience there. You've talked before about experiential commerce. So, can you? It sounds like as you're unpacking fairness to the fans, that like some of that's part of what you might define as experiential commerce. Is there more to it? Like that phrase, is there a little bit more to it than that? And how specifically would something like experiential commerce? How would that be different? How would you differentiate it from just merely selling something online? Right? It sounds like it's a little bit more loaded there.
Yeah, I think there's so much that can be done. I feel like the separation for me is the stuff that you need, detergent, like the
Mm-hmm.
recurring, the groceries and so on.
Sure.
And then there are things that you want, right? And like I have a bunch of mechanical keyboards behind me. I have my own thing. Everyone does, like whatever it is, they have their
Yep.
thing that they deeply care about. And right now, the experience is the same. It's a flat product page, whether it's something that you care deeply about and you're doing, tons of research and really getting excited for a product. It's basically the convenience that you get from Amazon.com. It's the same flat
Okay.
experience. And I think there's the opportunity for the brands to try and create something that's more memorable, whether it's something online where you maybe invite someone in to stream into the product drop so people feel like they're part of something bigger, like part of a community around that brand. Or maybe it's something that happens in real life. And this comes back to my kind of roots in
Yep.
live event ticketing, feeling like bringing people together creates memorable moments. And if you can craft something where you bring people together and you get them excited and you run a good experience that feels fair, that really sticks with people and it
Yeah.
creates loyalty with a wider group of people than you would normally reach. So I feel like experiences are like you're not just selling a product, right? You're selling some intangible thing. You're selling,
Sure.
that feeling like you're part of a group. If you see
Yeah.
someone walking down the street in some really hard to get exclusive Jordan 4s, for example,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're part of that group, you just know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that feeling is something that's intangible and it goes beyond just the products that you're selling.
That is interesting. I think particularly when it comes to events, concerts, that type of thing. Like a tangible product is still a tangible product, but when you go to an event, you really aren't buying something that you take with you and display somewhere or use as a piece of technology. Like it literally is. It's a one-time thing, right? And so it is interesting that in the process of buying, purchasing into an experience, that part of that would be muddied by the fact that that experience and the purchasing part of it fell apart for you, right? It's almost like,
Absolutely.
it's just strange to think that you would have so little care on the front end, like the walking through the doors of the experience. Like this is actually going to really suck, but don't worry, when you get here, it's going to be great. If you get here, it's like
Yeah.
you can actually make it. You're going to love
Yeah.
it, and we hope you'll forget. I guess that on the way, it really was a crap show.
Yeah.
So
And
it is
I
almost
think
ironic when you think of it like in those terms, right? So,
Yeah, and I think about like Apple unboxing. That was a video I watched recently, and it
okay,
was Sir Johnny Eve talking about
yep,
obsessing about the
yes,
cable ties in
yeah,
the box and like feeling like someone spent attention and love on this thing.
yeah,
And it's not something you're just going to throw it in the trash after you're done, right? But it
right,
creates this feeling of luxury, of feeling that people cared for the products they created. And if
yep,
your experience is everyone just elbowing each other, or there was an example from Manhattan where people were throwing PS5s off the back of an SUV, and the police had to get involved. Like if that's the moment you're creating, that's completely creating a sour taste in the mouth
for
around that
sure.
product.
It's it's interesting. When you talk about luxury, I remember hearing luxury years ago is defined for me as as a feeling. Like it's something that you feel. It's not just a tangible item. So like people think, Rolex, that's a luxury watch, right?
Right.
Lamborghini is a luxury automobile, but the the physical, product of whatever that is isn't what's actually creating the luxury. The luxury is the feeling that you have when you're in possession of those items or that experience. And that's actually like, it's almost a philosophical idea behind luxury. It's not just, oh, I have sitting on the shelves behind me something really expensive. It's like, if nobody, knows what that is, it might not mean anything to them, but it gives you a feeling that's positive. And that's actually what luxury represents. So I'm curious, like, you don't have to, share a lot of details or names, if you don't want to, but can you kind of give me a juxtaposition of a situation where this went really bad? I know you kind of hinted at the errors towards something that, okay, this is an instance of something not going well because the front end experience was very, very poorly handled. And maybe if you have a counter position example of like, this is what it looks like for things to go smoothly on the front end so that the entire experience is beneficial. Maybe like
Yeah.
countervailing examples.
Absolutely. Just going back to the point about luxury too, I feel like there's the ability to create exclusivity that doesn't require you to just outprice your real fans, right? You can
Sure.
create
Okay.
exclusivity by making things limited and scarce and still allowing your real fans to get those products. And I feel like
Yeah.
the brands that I see being really successful with this are creating some feeling of scarcity without just ramping up the price as much as they possibly can to limit how many people can come through that process. I think to that end, bad example, good example. I've definitely seen. We worked with a brand who they have a ton of people who are very interested in grabbing their products whenever they have some kind of pop up or event, and they had a pop up that ended up the police had to shut it down.
Wow.
Just people going in buying their products, getting grief on the way out, like all kinds of pain if you were successful, all kinds of pain if you were not successful. Eventually, fights broke out. The police had to break that up. So we worked with that brand on creating something where they could create that feeling of anticipation, of excitement, but without the chaos.
Okay.
So what we did was we went in there and created an in real life experience where you could go, you could scan a code, you would be given some appointment slot, and then you could come back at that appointment slot, and it was a limited line. You could still see that there was anticipation around getting these things, but it wasn't like a 3-4 hour wait for these things. It wasn't complete chaos. And for the people who were attending, they felt like they could, they could scan, they could go off about their business and do whatever they wanted to do, and then come back, and they would be assured their place in line. And for the brand, like it took all of that pain away, right? They don't have to
Interesting.
worry about the police showing up because there's like 4 blocks worth of people showing up into a residential neighborhood, right? There's no
Yeah.
chaos around this particular launch. You've created something that still has that feeling of exclusivity, but without just the panic and the chaos and the pain.
Interesting. It's funny because when I think about this, you talk about real fans. What is that? What does that look like in terms of from a position of fanfare? What is that? What does that definitionally mean to you guys if you're trying to create a system of guardrails? Obviously, bots are pretty easy to understand. We know what it means to have just like fraudulent systems in, but for me, I'm thinking, what do you create a line of demarcation where it says, hey, these are people that have actually been loyal to the brand. Here are maybe what we might call opportunists, right? That see an opportunity to come in, grab a bunch of stuff, maybe resale. And so in strictly human terms, both of these people are qualifying customers, right? We can't, you can tell the difference between a bot and a human, but still just the opportunist side of humanity that might just want to come in there and crowd out the system and still make a bad experience.
Right.
How do you look at that and try to figure out a situation that doesn't become overrun with that scenario particularly? Curious your
Yeah.
thoughts there.
I think it's building up an idea of who these people are over time. And if you're an opportunist and you see like something is going for 3x the price, I'm just going to jump online and grab as many as I can, and then disappear off and do whatever I need to do. Probably those people are using some kind of bot, right? Whether it's
Sure.
very sophisticated or completely unsophisticated, like they're probably doing something to get as many of those items as possible, different names, addresses, and so on. So you can rule a lot of that traffic out just by
Okay.
having some interventions that come in that try and rule those people out from the very beginning. But then just identifying if someone has come back and they've purchased, and they haven't purchased everything, maybe, right? That look like legitimate traffic. Maybe they've tried to buy and they've failed multiple times, but they've spent time with the brand, they've engaged with the brand in some way. Then we can try and move these people forward. We can give them exclusive access and so on. Like trying to identify, these people who keep coming back and are fans, even though they may be unlucky, or they're fans, even though maybe the price point doesn't fit for them. Like maybe they come and browse, they do things around your announcements that you make. Maybe
Mm.
they repost when they get the item. Maybe they have an unboxing experience that they share with the community online. Like all of those different touch points with the brand show that you are willing to spend time and you are loyal to that brand, or you have some affinity for that brand. So I think
Yeah.
it's just capturing as much as you can and being able to, as a brand, turn that into something useful that you can kind of
Hmm.
make actionable, like moving people forward in line, providing recommendations, or just gifting people points for interactions with the brand, I think is important.
Hmm. That's interesting. I This is just such a fascinating thought experiment for me because I'm thinking of, as a company who's profitable, if you want to continue profiting, you're going to want to sell as much as you can, and like that can seem very simplistic, right? It's almost reductionistic, where it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter what happens as long as we're moving volume, then that's great. As long as it's going out the door. But we're in a different era than maybe even 50 years ago, where you didn't have as much interconnectedness. Right now, reviews are a driving force of any company's livelihood. Well, it was like Google reviews weren't a thing in the 80s, right? So maybe volume was the only metric companies really had to lean on. Whereas now, volume at the cost of your brand suffering because of a bad launch or a bad experience, that kind of trickle effect that it can have across the market is really, really fascinating. I think it's almost like a new elements of the economy that probably never truly existed at least at the scale that it does now. Obviously, any high tier quality item has been known for that for ages because they've consistently delivered on the product. But the idea that a launch or an experience, especially ticketing, that type of thing, could be hindered, even if the brand is well known. It's just, I don't know, it almost seems like a new facet of the market landscape that probably didn't exist before, just the type of global interconnectivity that we have today. So do you
Yeah.
think that's the case, or has this historically, always been more of a present thing? I'm just like, do you have any thoughts on that particularly?
Yeah. And my feeling is it's a very human trait to go after the things that are hard to get, right? The
Okay.
shiny objects. It's something that we can't turn off in ourselves, right? We just
Sure.
lost after those items.
Yep.
And so that's, I think, just always going to be true. And
Hmm.
that's been true of flash sales and like Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and things like that. I
Right.
think what's different is, like you say, the ability to reach people, the ability to pull in an audience, the ability to craft something that maybe goes viral is not something that you could do really at all a few decades ago, right? You couldn't do this a few years ago. Like social media and just the fact that people are engaging more with brands online, that they're finding brands through TikTok, through Instagram, like that means that things can take off incredibly
Yeah.
quickly. And it makes it more important, I think, to try and craft something that differentiates you from everyone else, right? I think
Yeah.
if you can poke through, if you can get through with some maybe quirky, strange, unusual, like contemptuous kind of experience that you create, then that really makes a difference. And
Hmm.
we've definitely seen brands. There's a soap brand in LA called Dr. Squatch
Oh
that's
yeah.
done a
Yeah.
couple of these like incredible marketing.
Yep.
They did a collaboration with Sydney Sweeney, which
Yep.
is, I mean, American Eagles collaborations
Yeah.
doing the rounds right
Uh-huh.
now. But they did a collaboration where the soap was infused with Sydney Sweeney's bathwater.
I was
Like,
just hearing about this like 3 days ago. It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it completely sold out. The
Right.
servers fell over. They're going for £2,000 on eBay right now.
It's
Like,
wild.
it's a
Wow.
very unusual, strange event that you've created. But
Yeah.
it's not just about the revenue. It's not just
Yeah.
about selling those soaps. You're trying to
Sure.
create, it's brand marketing you're doing, right? It's
Yeah.
marketing
Yeah.
spend. You should see these as marketing events. And for the
Right.
brands that you really throw time, effort, and love and attention into creating this campaign, this kind of viral moment, if you then
Mm-hmm.
just fall over at the final hurdle, like all of that time effort is squandered. And we've
Yeah.
definitely seen that too. Like, you spend a ton of time and effort in creating something. Like, maybe it's the product itself. As a
Mm-hmm.
creator, you've poured yourself into some product, and then bots came in, your site fell over, and everyone feels disgruntled through that.
Sure.
Like, that's a
Sure.
heart wrenching moment to have it just collapse under you for no real fault of your own. Like, you didn't
Sure.
build
Yeah.
the ecom platform that fell over. You just
Right.
expected it to be there, and it wasn't.
So let's tease that a little bit more. We'll call it MVE, minimum viable experience, right? What does that look like for a launch to deliver something that can just earn that initial attention? We have very scarce attention spans. We have probably scarcer second opportunities if we didn't make it
Yep.
the first time. So if you're thinking of like MVE, this is like bottom line, you're getting ready to launch something. What is that minimally going to need to look like for it to be initially successful?
Yeah, I would say been thoughtful about what you're trying to achieve through this. We see some
Yeah.
people who just kind of throw things up online with no clear intent behind it. And I think the people who are successful, they know exactly what they're after, whether that's trying to go after a different demographic or reaching a new audience or trying to get some message out there. Like, maybe the brand has a really strong narrative and they're trying to get that out into the world. So being thoughtful about why you're doing this is really important. And then thinking about ways that you can maybe collaborate further upstream, people that you can bring in who are good examples of the community that you want to bring in. Like, if you can find the person who can pierce through, I think that's really helpful. And then just don't fall over at that final moment. Like, you've created anticipation around this event. If you
Mm,
then fall over, it's not
yeah.
just like falling over on a Tuesday. Like, you've
Yeah.
just caused massive frustration.
Sure.
That's Don't do that. I can't stress that strongly enough. If you fail in that moment, a bunch of people will abandon you. Even your loyal
What
fans eventually will abandon you.
what does that look like? Like, what falling over there? I'm assuming you're talking more of like an operational mistake, right? Like if everything's going well up to that point, if we're referencing like a midnight meltdown again, is that an operational problem then? And if so, what are the operational mistakes that are happening that late in the game? Where are people just dropping the ball when it's almost out the door?
Yeah, I mean, I think just capturing the information ahead of time, we see people kind of pulling various products off the shelf and kind of sticking them together and hoping they work in the moment,
Okay.
and they usually don't. So we've seen people create like a Google form on a product page using some other product suite that's just not set up for 200,000 people coming in all at once trying to pile through the website. So that's
Okay.
number one. We definitely see issues around that where people just can't get into the process. Like, you've advertised this, you've pushed
Hmm.
this, that this is going to be live at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. It's 9:01 and everything is gone. Everything is broken and no one can get in there.
Yeah.
You've just lost a lot of opportunity. Like, people may not come back. So
Sure.
that's operational mistake number one. I think we see even people trust incumbent platforms like a thing like a Shopify. Like, Shopify is not going to fall down, right?
Right.
And sometimes it does. We've seen Taylor Swift cause an outage,
Mm-hmm.
system-wide outage for Shopify. But you'll end up in some terrible experience. Like, you'll end up
Yeah.
in a queue that Shopify just threw up there because it looks like your site is under attack. It looks like
Right.
bad things are happening with your store, when really you've just been maybe more successful than you expected to be.
Yeah.
So that's for sure where we've seen that happen, there are fires going off on the brand side, and there are people scrambling to, pull away payment methods, trying to identify if these are bots, if they're real people coming through, like trying desperately to address whatever issue is going in that moment. And then after the fact, like you need to treat this like you have frustrated a ton of your potential fan base. So you need to get ready for that kind of negative attention.
Hmm.
Be candid and kind of humble in that moment, and try and address whatever concerns the community has, and then try and create something that makes amends for the pain that you just caused, or whatever platform just caused. We see people just have a bad experience. They will complain about the platform, or they'll complain about sometimes their customers. They'll complain about bots and bad actors when really you should have been prepared for an event
Hmm.
like this.
Yeah.
And people generally don't feel too great when other people get the blame.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, Michael, wrapping up, let's I'm curious kind of getting your thoughts on the future. Been in this for a while. You have seen launch chaos at a high level. You're building tools to fix that. What still genuinely excites you about the future of how brands are going to be able to connect with customers during all these high stakes moments?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the in real life piece.
Okay.
I'm here in LA, and we have
Yeah.
the Olympics, we have the World Cup final. Like, this is a great place to bring people together and have some kind of communal event.
Hmm.
And I personally remember, like, the strongest moments I have with a brand are where people came together and I had something that happened in real life. Like, those really stick with me. So I'm really excited for stuff that we're launching towards the end of the year. We're attending a bunch of conferences towards the end of the year when we're going to roll this out. And I'm really excited to see like 60,000 people, 70,000 people in a stadium, all pointing their phones up to the sky to attend
Yeah.
some, launch that an athlete is doing at some sports event, or like some
Yeah.
massive concert having some kind of, live event like that. Like, I'm super excited for that stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Michael, it's been a lot of fun getting to chat. Thanks for sharing your insights here. And thanks for fixing what a lot of us have experienced as not so great moments. So
Help is on
we
the
all
way.
we all appreciate that you're in the
All right.
trenches for us. How can people get connected with you and follow along with what you're doing?
You can find me forever on LinkedIn. I'm always
Okay.
on there for my sins, so please reach out, connect, grab some time. I always love to talk about this stuff. And yeah, head
Awesome.
over to Fanfare.io. We have a bunch of newly created case studies and things, and
Great.
playbooks that people can try and walk through to understand what works, what doesn't work, where we've seen pain, where we've seen excitement and enjoyment from the fans. So yeah, please reach out.
Yeah. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. And we look forward to staying in touch and seeing how this changes the landscape for us all down the road. So thanks again, Michael, for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.